Creepy Snapchat guy. So I was about 13 or 14 when this happened. I had been in a really dark place mentally, and I met this guy through Tumblr. He told me his name was John, and he thought I was really pretty and ran a cool Tumblr. He used pictures of this super generic emo guy, and my twin heart was hooked. We talked for days and nights, and at one point I told him the town I lived in. Because my parents worked late, I'd get home from school and usually be by myself at home, and I'd sit in the living room, which has this big window facing the street. If you looked in, you could see people and the TV and stuff, and I always kept the curtains open for light. So about 2 weeks after John and I were talking, I'd noticed this white sedan drive slowly past our house at least once a day, usually right after I got home from school. I also noticed that whenever I was watching something and texting John, he'd find a way to bring the show into the conversation. I didn't think much of it at first, because usually it was shows I'd reblogged on my page before. That was until I started watching Pretty Little Liars on ABC Family. I hadn't posted or reblogged anything about the show, and then John started bringing it up, and I thought it was really weird. When I asked him about it, he said I just seemed like the type of girl who watched it, so I dropped the issue. Fast forward 2 weeks, and I'm with some friends at a nearby park. I wasn't having a good day, so we decided to hang out and do photo shoots or whatever. So we are walking around, and I turn my head and boom, there's that white sedan, except it's closer, and I can see the person in it. It's this older guy, maybe in his 20s, just watching us. I got really uncomfortable, but I didn't bring it up, and then my friend suggested we go to the playground, which is right next to the parking lot. But at this point, none of my friends knew about this issue, and I wanted to seem cool, so I went along with it. We digged around on the playground for a bit when I noticed the guy in the white sedan get out of his car and walk towards us. My middle school brain is trying to rationalize that this can't be the same sedan that kept sitting outside and driving past my house. And maybe the guy was just watching his kid or something. I wish that were the case. I went over to the water fountain to grab a drink, and the guy comes up to me. "Hi there." Hi. You're," he said my Tumblr handle, "right?" My blood went ice cold. Yeah. Who are you?" He smiled at me, this really wide grin. "I'm John. I came to see you in person. You told me the town you lived in and how you wished we could meet. Listen, I gotta get back to my friends." No. Why don't we take a drive? We can go to McDonald's." He grabbed my arm at this point, and I think one of my friends had noticed because she came up to us, and the John guy released me and started to back up. "Hey Lizzie, Mom said we gotta head home. Dad's home and he had a long day." I nodded along and walked away with her, my whole group of friends crowding me as we headed back to my house. I never told my parents what happened that day, and none of my friends did either. None of us wanted our Tumblrs exposed, and we thought we'd get in trouble for what happened, even though I was the only one at risk. When we got home, I blocked John and reported the account, thanking my friends for saving me. It's scary to think what could have happened if they hadn't been there, and I don't think the story would have a happy ending. Stalked in the woods. I posted this in Missing 411, and in my planning of my upcoming camping trips, felt the urge to post it here. Mostly a copy and paste with an update on one of the family members. This may be a ramble of thoughts, but after recently stumbling upon this sub, I finally felt a place I could offer something that my family and I experienced a few years ago that to this day gives me a shiver. I have been camping, solo backpacking, and hunting my whole life in Oregon, and felt comfortable in the woods and have a deep respect for nature. A few years ago, my wife, daughter, and 2 German shepherds went camping north of Mount Jefferson, Oregon. I have included the coordinates of our campsite, which we found to be the perfect setup for us, and our 2 dogs who need the privacy since they are intimidating to other dog owners and can be loud when spooked. It was not an established campsite, just a nice horseshoe off a USFS road that had flat ground, full trees, and a fire pit. The first night my daughter wanted to sleep by herself in a 2-man tent right next to ours. It was maybe 2 feet away from me and my wife's tent. We made the male German Shepherd, Guts is his name, sleep with her in the tent. That whole first night, neither my wife and I could sleep, and we both heard footsteps, and they were heavy, not like typical forest critters scampering around the night. I was well armed because I was paranoid from reading recently before departing about a dad in California who was shot and killed in a tent next to his 2 infant daughters. Needless to say, both my wife and I had 2 pistols and my rifle with me. The dogs are great at detection, and that is why I felt my daughter could sleep alone, because Guts is completely fearless and nothing would lay a hand on her without a battle to the death. All in all, nothing but bad vibes and loud footsteps occurred that night, which I ultimately decided was deer or maybe some elk. Day 2, morning. We go for a walk down the road and maybe 300 feet away see the circle area in the photo. I see an abandoned road where a rusted gate post, gate was missing, was covered in vegetation. Something of blue color caught my eye and Guts immediately takes off running down this abandoned road. My heart begins to race because I think it's another family camping like us, and he is going to get himself shot or scare some innocent people to death, so I chase after him as fast as I can, and the rest follow. He stops after 20 feet into the road and me yelling his name, but I have covered just enough distance to see that there is nobody there, and something is off about the sight. I yell, "Hello? Is anyone there? Sorry about the dog." I got no response. My curiosity gets the best of me, and I have to see what the site conditions were. As I get closer, I know something is wrong. It had all the necessities for a campsite, including a cooler, propane burner, tent, blankets, folding table, but every single item had been completely destroyed, smashed, and torn from what appeared to be claw marks. We all walked around in circles, puzzled why anyone would leave all their camping gear behind, including an expensive ray tent. I figured, well, someone left in a hurry and animals got to the rest as the only logical explanation. Still, a propane tank and cooler were flattened by something, and it certainly wasn't snowpack with 3 covered in that spot. As the afternoon rolls in, me and my daughter are playing bocce-ball at the campsite, and my wife goes walking maybe 70 feet north to do her business. I do not have direct line of sight on her, but all of a sudden, I see Guts make a mad dash straight towards her. Normally he would always be with me unless he is called over, and she didn't call for him. His speed and focus caught my attention, and I knew something weird was happening. So I ran over there, and my wife starts jogging at me, and I immediately draw my pistol. Guts has completely continued running into the forest another 100 feet before I call him and he stopped. My other dog, Leah, who never misses the opportunity to be the pack leader, is not taking point. I have had her for now 7 years, and this was the first time in her life she refused to leave my daughter's side. She was full hair raised and attached to us at the hip. Again, anytime we hike or play, Leah is up front bossing everything in a path and pauses to look to see where we are and continues. I asked my wife what happened, and she said, "I was trying to pee, and all of a sudden I felt all my hairs raise. I know someone was watching me, and then I saw Guts running towards me, and I just got up to move towards you." We spent 10 minutes looking for signs of anything and saw no trails, broken branches, nothing to point to what and where something went. We decided we are spending one more night since it's too late to pack up and drive, but we will all be in the big tent together. Before we go to bed, I put a rope with a makeshift coin alarm around the perimeter of our campsite. I used a mint can and some coins and keys from our truck and zip-tied it so anything hitting the rope gave a little jingle. Very unsophisticated, but it put my wife at ease. As I go to tie my last corner off at a tree near our tent, our third mystery item unveils itself. It looks like someone has done the same exact thing I have done, with a rope that was so old and brown I didn't see it at first. It was broken and only a few pieces remained, but sure enough, it was tied at roughly the same height, 8 to 10 inches off the ground, and even had a few rusted washers on it. I immediately felt someone has stayed here before and put the same makeshift warning system on the same tree, maybe 10 to 15 years ago, based on the condition of the rope. Perhaps my paranoia has now reached a new height, but I had to make sure the girls felt we are safe, and at the time, the only thing I could think of was when the evening came around, I made them sit in the truck and I fired a clip of my 45 into the dirt as a signal to whatever was out there that we are armed. I reassured the girls that anybody listening to that now knows we have 2 wolves and are armed, and we are too risky of a target so we can sleep safely. That night, we heard no footsteps and the dogs never perked up and barked. We left early the next morning. Fast forward to today, and I watched the Amazon Missing 411 Hunted documentary, and I noticed the cluster smack dab close to where we camped that weekend, and a flood of dread rushes me as I think of that mysterious abandoned campsite with the ripped tent and smashed cooler and cooktop. We have been camping since and have enjoyed the beauty of the NW, but there was something there at that place that possibly took or harmed someone else less than 300 feet away from where we camped, and we all thank our lucky stars Guts was doing his thing so well that afternoon. Update from original posting. Guts is no longer with us. He has journeyed into the next phase, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about him and how he saved us. He was a warrior, and his new brother, Geronimo, has his spirit.